Hey guys, what's up? I just wanted to talk about something. I was at the gym like an hour ago. I've been home since, and I forgot my shorts in the change room. I had to go back. But I was at the gym, and I like to work out, and then I like to sit in the sauna, and I try to strike up conversations with people. I don't know why. I'm obsessed with doing it right now. And really, all I'm trying to do is get people to think, like, outside of their boxes, you know? But I got a little bit ornery today. because this guy, I threw out, well, a couple different things happened. I was just really wound up. And there was this dude in there who seemed like a nice enough guy. His name was Wasif. Wasif or Wasim? I apologize if I get it wrong. Anyway, he was talking about the fact that he's actually a professor at the University of Waterloo. And I asked him, you know, what he thought about, you know, the rise of AI. He goes, well, actually, I said I wanted to have I forget specifically. I said something about, like, wanted to talk about, like, what's happened in the world, like, what's going on. Like, from a philosophical position. And he says, oh, well, you know, I'm in engineering. And I said, oh, you're in engineering? Oh, so you know how to put stuff together. He says, yes. He says, well, and I said, well, what do you think about the artificial intelligence stuff? He goes, actually, I did my PhD in artificial intelligence. And I said, well, what do you think about it? Like, what do you think it is? And he goes, well, a lot of people think that a lot of people are going to lose a lot of jobs, and there's probably a lot of truth to that. I said, no. I said, no. What do you think it is? And he said, well, really, it's just kind of like word association. And I said, no, I understand what people say they think it is. He said, well, you know, this is what it is. I spent like 10 years working on my PhD, and this is what I tried. I never actually got what his thesis was. But clearly he was a professor, so whatever he did well enough to be accepted and get a PhD. And I said to him, but what is it? And he goes, well, it's a word association. I go, you know, that's an answer that, to me, doesn't hold water. Because basically what you're saying is that it's 1,000 monkeys typing on 1,000 typewriters for 1,000,000 years and typing out all the greatest works in history. That suggests some kind of intelligence behind it, some kind of intention, something that, like, it wanted to talk, and then it started talking. And he goes, yeah. And I said, okay, let me. I said, will you grant me, because you should know, you're an expert, will you grant me that no one really knows how it works? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, you know what? I gotta go though. My time's up. I gotta go. And I was like, okay. And then this other guy was in there, and this other guy, I said, what does everybody think about Elon Musk? Yay or nay? And he goes, yay, nay. He put his thumb there. I said, okay, well, what do you mean, nay? What don't you like about Elon Musk? And he goes, oh, I could give you... I'm such a... Like, this is me. I can't help it. He goes, I could give you a laundry list of things that I do not like about Elon Musk. It would take all day. I said, you just give me the bullet points. And he goes, well... He didn't really... The thing is, he didn't really know what he didn't like about Elon Musk. He just knew that he didn't like Elon Musk. And one of his things was, well, I just don't like the way that he said, well, you know, he's built a lot of really amazing companies, and he's brought a lot of really amazing technologies and stuff. I said, yeah. Oh, so you do like Elon Musk? He's like, well, no, I don't like the way that he does it. And I said, okay. What do you think about what he said when he's going after what he's calling the woke mind virus? What do you think about that? And he said, well, I don't really know what that means. And I said, okay, let me give you, for instance. I have a point with this. And I'm not going to be able to get to it just now, but I'll show you later. I said, what do you think? Okay, I have 2 kids, okay? My kids are 10 and 11, and they're my everything. And I said, well, what Elon Musk is pointing out, and what a lot of people don't seem to understand, And this is why I think that they don't understand that, like, whatever's happening right now, the one thing that Elon said was he wants to go after the woke mind virus. He wants to attack the woke mind virus. And I said, do you know what he means when he says that? And he goes, well, no. And I said, okay, let me give you an example. My kids are 10 and 11. I love them. They're my everything. But we live in Canada, right? And in Canada, the way that the woke mind virus is, so my sons, my younger boy is a boy. He's like a rough and tumble, just, he's a boy. But my older son is very cerebral, and he's artistic, and he's just more of a free spirit. And I said, I think that's amazing. I don't have any problem with that. He can be whoever he wants to be. But do you realize that the way that things work right now with the school system, the way that pedagogy has built itself up, and the way that government has backed up the way that pedagogy has thought about things. So what I'm saying is, like, our education system went in such a direction that it became more about ideology than it did about things like human rights. So our human rights got infused with our ideological presuppositions about things. And how that plays itself out is, my son, it's theoretically plausible that if he was just a little, like, if he was more effeminate or whatever, and he was having a hard time, the teacher might approach him and say something to him like, do you feel, because teachers are trained to care about the child's welfare, do you feel like you need assistance, or you want to talk to a counselor or something like that? And the way that things have gone, and we know this because it happened in the UK when really rabid, ideologically oriented people got into positions of power. The same thing happened in Canada, by the way. I saw this happening. Jordan Peterson was on a program on TVO on the agenda, Steve Bacon's agenda, like in 2015, before he ever blew up. And I saw this episode and I went, what on earth is going on here? And so I've been thinking about it ever since. And this woke mind virus thing, this thing that's been going on, has been something that I've been thinking about for a long time. And these people were arguing that human rights suggests that you can have a spectrum of, genders, which is different from biological sex. But your gender is how you feel about who you are inside. Don't stop me if you've heard this, okay? I'm not saying anything about that other than to say that people are allowed to feel that way. But what happened, which was so pernicious, was these feelings that these ideological actors had, which were really, it's kind of neo-Marxism. I'm not going to get too deep into it right now. But this is exactly what's been going on in the United States. And this is exactly the kind of thing that Elon said he was going after. This way of thinking gets entrenched into the system in such a way that it starts to literally affect people's lives. So the example being that if my son were like a little bit more effeminate or whatever, the teacher would be almost obligated, because of the way they're trained to think about human rights, to say to him, and how do your parents feel about this? And if my son said, well, I feel like they don't really respect me and they don't care about how I feel, the teacher is not necessarily obligated, but kind of, they're taught to then channel this child towards a person who is a counselor. And the counselor then would be obligated, more or less, just because of their belief system, because this is the predominant view right now in the world. They would be not obligated, but kind of obligated. They would be pushed in the direction of sending my child to a counselor, and that counselor then could prescribe some kind of drug, like a puberty blocker, or any of these kinds of things that they give kids now who are transitioning from a boy to a girl, or a girl to a boy. But it became so dangerous that what actually, like, the legal system caught up to that here in Canada. I said, I'm pretty sure that I'm not even allowed to say this. And if I say this, it's going to be like I can be charged for saying, like, I'm not, like, if I were to say to a specific person, oh, you can misgender someone. This is like, it's in the, I forget the specific law, but basically it goes against their human rights to misgender them. But this is, again, it's ideological. It's an ideological presupposition that has real world consequences. So if they were to do that to my son, and I will tell you why this is going to matter after, because I went through this, I said this to the guy, and he's like, well, I don't agree with you. And I said, well, you don't have to agree with me for it to be true. And it is true. It is true that the way that our government thinks about it, and the way that we have been infested with ideology and ideologists, they have made this such a scenario that if a child, like my son, goes to the teacher and says, I feel unsafe or whatever, the teacher is more or less obligated to turn them to a counselor. The counselor then can prescribe gender-changing drugs, which will in turn castrate my child, and then he'll never be able to have children because he won't be able to impregnate a woman. And like that's the very real and pernicious nature of this kind of stuff, of this ideology. And it's not in my imagination, it's like a real thing. And he goes, well, I just don't agree with you. And then he said, well, Elon Musk did a Nazi salute. And I said, did he though? I mean, now you're talking about, you're imposing, actually, what was he said something very funny, because he goes, I can't remember specifically, but it was something about like, oh, well, we can have misunderstandings, and those misunderstandings lead to real world problems. And I said, yeah, that's what I was just talking about with the gender drugs. That's a misunderstanding that can lead to like a real world consequence. And when it comes to him thinking, he's like, well, I don't like Elon because he did a Nazi salute. I said, yeah, but you're saying he did a Nazi salute. Did he? Did he actually do a Nazi? Like, what do you actually not like about Elon Musk? Can you tell me? And he didn't have an answer. He was like, I don't like his attitude, and I don't like his Nazi salute. Yeah, he's made some good things, but that's why I don't like him. And so this is the guy that was telling me he could give me a laundry list, and he could talk about it all day long. And when I pressed him on it, he had no answer whatsoever other than these ridiculous things where he doesn't even have the slightest clue that he doesn't have the slightest clue that he doesn't know what he's talking about. This is the kind of stuff that's been going on in our society, and it's very real. And when I told him that it was happening, he goes, well, I just don't believe that. And me being the nut that I am, I went out and I picked up my phone and I opened the ChatGPT app, and I talked to ChatGPT about it. And I said, am I right about this or am I wrong about this? It goes, yeah, you're right. And now I have the legal, actual, the sections of law that tell you that what I'm telling you is correct. And I'm going to put them into a Substack. Look at this. There's a cat, following a lady down the road. That's awesome. I'm going to make a Substack, and I'm going to put these legal rulings in there so that you can see that what I'm saying is 100% true, and that not only are we in Canada we're just so behind on everything, we just don't realize that the rest of the world, the UK and the United States, they've already realized that this is a problem, okay? It's a big problem. Why? Because so the idea is that if you hurt a person's feelings, that's violating their human rights. So you must give them this chemical cocktail that literally there's no question here that it sterilizes children. Okay? Because so the thing that the ideology tells people is, oh, well, if you don't affirm their gender, then they're going to kill themselves. And we know that because we have a study that says that they're more likely to kill themselves, and that's their evidence, right? So their evidence for a child's feelings being hurt so much that they might do something bad to themselves. By the way, this rests on really, really flimsy studies. It's garbage, really. And I'm not saying that like you shouldn't respect the child's feelings. Of course you should. You should bring them to a counselor. You should help them understand that this might just be a phase and they might actually transition out of it. The problem is that this stuff, this protection that teachers have to spew this ideology to children, it protects the children. It protects the children's rights. This is the important part. It protects the children's rights over the rights of the parents. So I had said to this guy, so these teachers can do this stuff. And because of the way that we've set things up, legally speaking, in Canada, in Ontario, if a child were to, if a parent were to try to sue the government over sterilizing their children due to an ideological belief system, the way things are currently, the government would win and the parent would have no right to actually raise their own child with their own beliefs about it. Now, I'm not imposing my belief system on my child if I'm a parent that says, I don't think that that's the right way to think about things, because there are real world consequences. The child gets sterilized. And then maybe when they realize that, oh, well, this was all just like silly fancy, then the child, it's too late to do anything. You can't have a child. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? That there's nothing that is more of a violation of a person's human rights than to take away their reproductive capacity. That is literally what they started doing in eugenics. That's what the Nazis did. They sterilized people that felt like that were not in the Aryan whatever. That is what the Nazi, I'm telling you, that the way that our ideology works right now in Canada is literally what the Nazis did. They sterilized people, but in the case of the Nazis, they sterilized people that they thought were unworthy. In this case, our institutions have gone so insane. They think they know what's right, and they passed laws to protect the case where a child might say something to a teacher, and then the teacher could turn around and send the child to a counselor. The counselor could then have somebody else prescribe drugs, and then your child is sterilized. And by the way, they don't have to tell you any of it is going. They can do it all behind your back. And when I tell this to people, they're like, "That's not true," and I'm like, "No, it's definitely true." And I said that there's a reckoning happening in the UK. It's happening in various parts of Europe. It's happening in the United States. And here in Canada, where I guess it's just like maybe it's just too cold to warm up the old thinking cap or whatever. But we're coming out of this winter now, and we're going to realize that if you take away a child's human right to reproduce over an ideological presupposition, that's not okay. Like, if I say to my child, no, I want you to grow up like Catholic or whatever, or Christian, first of all, I wouldn't do that to my child, because I would understand that is you're approaching them with something that you don't actually know to be true, but that's fine. I'm not telling them to sterilize themselves. Do you see what I'm saying? So there's different ways of thinking about things, and one is the direct byproduct of secular humanism, the sterilizing one, which sterilizes your child, that doesn't believe in God, that believes that everything is reason and whatever. They'll sterilize your children for you if your child goes to them and says, "Help, my parents are mean and they think that I'm not old enough to make these kinds of decisions." Our courts in Canada have ruled that at any age, it's perfectly appropriate to step in and have this kind of stuff done. And I'm not just making this up. I will show you. But like, as a society, we've gone so nuts that we would allow the state to sterilize our children rather, and by the way, if it's one child that happens to, that's one child too many. Like, can we agree on that? And so I'll wrap it up with this. You know, I was talking to this other guy that was like a truck driver. His name was Singh. And Singh told me, he goes, like at first, he goes, Trump. I said, what's happening in the morning? He goes, Trump. He said, I'm a truck driver and I'm actually here today because there's no work because Trump's the tariffs and stuff like that. I said, it's mind-boggling to me that almost 5 years ago now, to like right around this time, 5 years ago now, because we were told by people in authority with lab coats, and they must be telling the truth, that a novel virus was circulating around, and it was knocking people off left, right, and center. And then they forced people to wear masks, and they forced kids to wear masks in schools, and they put up plastic, and they said follow the arrows on the floor, and nobody said shit. But now if you ask almost to a person, everybody will complain about Donald Trump because they love to have easy answers. They love to have easy answers to complicated situations. Canadians, more than others, they're just like, just leave me alone. I just want give me a simple answer. No. And because I started speaking up about this kind of stuff, because I had seen how crazy things were going, but by that one episode with Steve Paikin on the agenda, like in 2015, I saw there was something really, really going wrong with society. And I said, well, this isn't okay. And I started talking about it back then. And then in 2020, when it just went like hyperbolic insane, and these people started telling us, well, actually, you have to wear this mask, and it's gonna, and if you don't wear a mask, and like initially I got in trouble because I wasn't wearing a mask, and I said, no, you're violating my human rights. First of all, you have to prove that something's going to happen. You don't just tell me that, like, oh, you think I might get sick, or I might get someone else sick, or like, that's not an argument. It never was. It was always a violation of logic and sanity. It always was. And so as soon as I realized it, I said, no, there's something else going on here. There's something really, really sick going on here. What are you doing? And I said, this is not normal. What's happening is not normal. And I started speaking out, like, a lot. And sure, like, yeah, did I spend too much time, like, speaking out and trying to get people to like, open their eyes or whatever? Yeah. I started speaking out, and because of that, I lost my job. We've lost, like, almost everything now. I pulled my kids out of school for 2 years. I homeschooled them. We homeschooled them for 2 years. I've done like a million different things just to try to like survive. And no one that did any of that stuff paid any price for any of it. Theresa Tam did not. Anthony Fauci did not. Justin Trudeau did not. Jacinda Ardern did not. Like, nobody paid any price for any of the stuff that they did to us and to our children and to our lives in our society. And they fucked the economy, and they fucked everything on purpose because, well, people weren't listening to them. And they said, well, people aren't listening to us, so we have the right to do all of this stuff to them. They never had the right. They always worked for us, by the way. Did you know those people, their job, like their actual job description is to work for us? So the minute they thought that lying was like the right thing to do, and just lying like continuously, just like endlessly lying, They began a cycle of endlessly lying. And right now they're lying to you about Trump. They're lying to you about Musk. They're lying, and we are lying to each other. We're lying to ourselves because we want to believe easy answers when the world is a lot more complex than you might think. And you know, I go to this sauna and I try to talk to people about like, do you really do you? And I talk to the artificial intelligence guy. I'm like, yeah, but you guys don't know how it works. And he's like, oh, I gotta go. And then the other guy's like, well, I still don't like Elon Musk because he did a Nazi sign and he's just not very nice. And I said, you're more worried about how much you don't like Elon Musk because you think he's not nice than you are about the welfare of children. What? And so I'm gonna I'll put a Substack together and I will show you that what's happening right now is a reckoning. All of the things that we thought made sense because we never really looked that much into them, they don't make a lot of sense except through one kind of way where you can actually kind of like, it all makes sense. It all makes sense. And I'm sorry for that ramble and that rant, and I'm sorry for being ornery with the guys in the sauna, but you know, this going crazy. Oh, I lost you. Anyway, I don't know. It's a wild time, isn't it? You know, like right at the kind of like crossroads of the metaphysical and the material, and you're an individual soul having an experience, and you're being invited to wake up and see things a little bit differently, because I think that things are not the way that we tend to want to believe with like the easy stories. Trump bad, Elon bad. I don't know. I can't see what's in their soul. But, like, you're being invited to think better. Are you listening? Are you taking the invitation? Okay. God bless you guys. Have a great day. Cheers.